Entrepreneurs are the kind of people that work 80 to 90 hours a week to avoid working a 40-hour week job.
Yeah, the
and they
E-Myth,
look down,
right?
They
It's
look
crazy.
down on the 9 to 5. They make fun of the 9 to 5er, but the 9 to 5er goes home at 5.
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. On today's show, we have Brian Page. Brian is an entrepreneur, online educator, and passive income pioneer who is best known as the creator of the B&B Formula. It's the world's #1 best-selling Airbnb coaching program with over 25,000 students in 47 countries. He's the host of the Digital Titans podcast, the star of the reality show House Hackers, and he is the author of Don't Start a Side Hustle, which just was released, and we're going to share how to get your copy, as well as a bunch of bonuses at the end of the show today. Brian Page, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, buddy? Good to be here.
Yeah. It's great to have you. And nobody really knows this because I haven't really mentioned it on the show before. But Brian, you really helped get our short-term rental business kickstarted a few years ago. And I'm trying to remember if I think it was pre-COVID, but I bought your course. I saw you somewhere and bought it was a B&B course, if I recall correctly,
yep,
right?
B&B Formula. Yep.
Yeah, man. So tell us about your evolution. I mean, that was, in what, 3 years, you got a TV show. I can't wait to hear about your new book that just came out. But tell us a little bit about your background and how you end up where you are.
Yeah, well, I'll go back even further than that because I got started right out of college. I knew I didn't work for somebody else. I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur in some way. And the best method I found back then to create wealth was real estate. And I that was the best model for me. And so I just dove into real estate investing. And my goal was to become a millionaire in my 30s. And I did that right before my 30th day and had a bunch of long-term rentals. And I kind of, quote, retired in my late 20s and started traveling the world and doing that kind of thing. I didn't have a lot of money flow coming in, but it was enough to not have a job and to become financially free. And that was my first taste of what I call becoming a passivepreneur, was through real estate.
Yeah. No, amazing. It's amazing how many people have a similar story where, they bought a property, started in residential real estate. Now, how many of those properties do you still own?
None of those original properties I still own. So I went through the real estate crash of 2008 and lost everything. And everything, including my personal home. Cars got repossessed. I ended up getting a letter from the IRS saying that I owed them $1.3 million. So I was a negative millionaire by the age of, 32, 33. Wow. So that was my first, huge everybody swing. Wants to brag about their successes. I'll brag about my biggest failure, which was that.
Yeah. So let's start with kind of some of those lessons you learned coming out of, I have so many friends that have similar stories, unfortunately. But it seems like almost all of them have come back bigger, better, stronger.
Oh yeah, totally. Let's talk about that. So I do own real estate today. But at that point in my life, I lost all the original real estate that I had. I went and got a job again, which was very hard to do after not having needed a job for years, to go get another one. And I just hated it. I was like, I hated answering to somebody else. I hated doing something I didn't want to do every day, having somebody tell me how much I could make and all that kind of stuff. I was just over it, but I had to do it to make ends meet. And I remember thinking to myself, I've got to get back into cash flow. I got to get cash flow again. How do I get more cash flow? And I knew that I didn't have the credit or the money, quite frankly, to go buy property. But I wanted that real estate could create. And it was kind of by chance. I was on a plane for work and I sat down next to this super wealthy guy who was like an angel investor and, worth, tens or hundreds of millions. And he said to me, Brian, after I told him kind of what I was doing, I was renting out a little spare room that I had in the apartment that I was renting. I had that little room on Airbnb, and I was making quite a bit of money from it. And he said, Brian, you could scale that thing if you wanted to. Yeah. And I said, well, I get that, but I can't buy property, nor do I even buy property. I don't really like the idea of debt anymore. Yeah. And he said, no, you don't have to buy property. You just have to control them. You can control them through leases. You can control them through partnerships. And if you do, you could scale your business. And so that one little idea I ran with it, ended up making about $300,000 in income that first year, quit my job, lived the properties, automated everything. So I spent like a few hours a week to manage them. And then I was free again. I was financially free. I had all the cash flow I needed to live the lifestyle. I again was kind of retired. I started traveling the world and living this incredible lifestyle. And that was where I learned to transition from an owner owning properties to a controller, where I was controlling properties. You can do
Yeah.
both, but a lot of people can start without owning property at all and create
Yeah.
a really massive cash flow. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how I became known as a guy that teaches short-term rentals.
Yeah, no, I love it. And that is when I talk to people, they're new investors, they come in, whether they, get our book or, they say, hey,
Yeah.
I want to invest. I'm not quite there yet, Chris. How do I kind of build up some capital? Like, where would you start? And it's tough, right? Because like back in the 90s, you could buy properties, you could cash flow them if they're
You could fog
residential
a mirror
properties.
and borrow money 100%
Oh,
of the
and
money.
oh yeah, 103% ridiculous. It's like negative amortization. You're like, what is happening here? You're like, this
Yeah.
can't be right.
We're headed back that way, it looks like, possibly.
Hey, the cycle repeats. It's like,
Yep.
it's wild. It's like it just happens over and over again. I actually talk about that in episode 100. It's about an 18, 19-year cycle, just kind of,
Oh, true.
and people forget about it. So I think real quick, I think, if you're listening and you heard me say that, go listen to episode 100, because we are getting into a period. I think you need to be wise,
Absolutely. Another
to some
cycle.
of the things. And that's where what you said is so important, Brian, which is, sometimes controlling is more powerful than owning. But my original point, when people ask me, where do I start? I say, hey, go buy a house, fix it up. If you can sell it after 2 years, double your money tax-free. Like, where else can you do that today? Which is amazing. But if that's not what you want to do, that's not where you are. So look into what Brian talks about. We have another, I think, do you know Kyle Stanley?
I know.
He's a friend of the show as well. He teaches a similar concept with the arbitrage. And I say, check out these methods, because to be able to go and create, tens of thousands of dollars of cash flow a month without owning the property or buying any,
And to
it's
do it in 30
amazing.
days or less. I mean,
Amazing.
we work with now directly, and
Yeah.
most of our clients are getting properties in 30 days, maybe 45 days.
Amazing.
So like to go from zero to cash flow, zero to profitability on a business with very little, if any, money tied up. I just don't know many businesses you can do that. There's a lot of ways to make money, but not usually that quickly. And the average person can do it. I mean, you don't, you can do it. I mean, it's not, you're renting properties and then you're putting guests in them. It's not a complicated business. So, anyway, so that was my second kind of coming back, financially, as a controller. And then that led into the next thing, which was becoming a creator. So I teach in my book 3 ways to be a passivepreneur. You can own, which is kind of the classic way. If you think of like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, he talks about buying assets. That's owning. But then there's controlling assets that you don't own. And that would be you can control properties, you could control products and services. Like if you're an affiliate for products and services, you don't own those, but you get to control them. You control the traffic that goes to them. You could be a hedge fund manager who controls other people's money. There's many different ways. But then into the third phase, which is being a creator. So what I did is I created a course around everything that I had learned and how I had built my whole Airbnb business. I launched that course. Gosh, this was back in 2017, I think. And it took me quite a while to figure out how to sell that course, how to get people to actually want to buy it. But
you got
when
me
I
to want
dialed
to buy
it in,
so
it took a while. I mean, it took a year of effort. But once I dialed it in, that course, it did $1 million in the first 6 weeks. And to this, it sold over $16 million just on that course.
Awesome.
So it still sells every day. That course has been updated with new content from my students, not from me. But it's a perfect example of a passive income vehicle, which I talk about also in the book, which is you create something one time that pays you over and over and over again. And it was created out of nothing. I mean, some software, a couple little tools that you need, but essentially it's created. It's literally I'm creating it. So so that kind of got me into that whole thing. And now today I own, create, and control all kinds of digital and non-digital assets that essentially 23 different sources of income.
Amazing. So your book, it just came out about 3 weeks ago here. It's called Don't Start a Side Hustle.
Don't start a side hustle.
That's not nobody's saying. Everybody's saying go do a side hustle. There's what I think even the government. One of the reasons the jobs are so high is because people are having multiple jobs, right? And you're saying don't start a side hustle. You've already said something I think that is going to be amazing for people to learn when they read your book, Own, Control, and Create, your way to passive income. But why not start a side hustle?
Good question. Okay. So the formula today, if you think of like people like Gary V,
Yeah.
Gary V would tell you, I work while you sleep. Work your face off. You got to work harder. The reason you're not successful is you're not working hard enough. You got to grind, right? This is kind of a common theme. It's a
Yeah.
very common theme among entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs are the kind of people that work 80 to 90 hours a week to avoid working a 40-hour week job.
Yeah. The
And
E
they look
myth,
down,
right?
they
It's
look down
crazy.
on the
Yeah.
9 to 5, they make fun of the
Yeah.
9 to 5, but the 9 to 5 goes home at 5. So it's kind of ironic, but the difference between a side hustle by definition is you got to hustle. It's all on you. It's reliant on you, your work, your effort, your time, your energy. It's on you. And if you stop hustling, stop earning. So I'm going to give you an example of a perfect side hustle.
Yeah.
Ubering. A lot of people
Yeah.
have Ubered. I did Uber back in the day to make ends meet. Ubering is a side hustle because if you stop putting in the seat and driving, you don't make any money.
Yeah.
The opposite of a side hustle is passive income, cash flow. Cash flow is the name of the game. Cash flow sets you free, can create the lifestyle that you want. And cash flow is not a hustle because although it may take some effort or some time to set up a cash flow, once it's set up, it can be truly passive. And there's many ways to do that. You can write a check and buy a property, and the minute you buy the property, that creates cash flow. That's totally passive, and that doesn't require much effort. Create a course, for example, does take a lot of effort, but it can pay you over and over and over and over again. So by definition, it's no longer a hustle.
Yeah.
And so that's what I tell people is you got to get away from the idea that you got to make money, because entrepreneurs are always like, how do I make money? How do I make money?
Yeah.
Do this, do that to make money. They don't realize that they're giving up their most precious resource, which is time.
Yeah.
And I would say that you're not wealthy if you have lots of income or lots of net worth. You're wealthy if you have income, net worth, and time. You're rich on time. The truly rich have all the time in the world. I've spent time in going to Monaco and Saint-Tropez and the places that billionaires hang out, and all they do is around on their mega yachts and drink champagne, and they have all the time in the world, and they're rich. So I want to get people away from this idea that money has to be directly tied to you, your efforts, and your time. And the only way to do that is to find vehicles that have the opportunity or they have the ability to create that income. And I think most people are spending too much time on the wrong vehicles, which an example of a wrong vehicle would be a cycle.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, I think, okay, so it's easy for people like you and I to say, Brian, we built up income. We have the freedom to do that. And people are like, yeah, that's great, Chris. But what is the bridge? What is the formula to go from, okay, so I'm working 60 hours a week in a sales job, right? I'm making good money. And I'm like, well, I want to get there, Brian, but I'm trying to spend time with my family. I'm trying to spend time as a husband. So I, have a good relationship there. I am doing some traveling. I don't have time for a side hustle. How the heck am I supposed to, develop one of these other income streams?
Yep. Well, that's a great question. So I have a chapter in the book called Focus on the Exponential. Okay. The remarkable power of the exponential.
Chapter 9.
The thing about creating one of these sources is that you are looking for a vehicle that has the potential to go exponential income while at the same time decreasing exponentially on the time involvement. So by definition, if you were going to start a business, okay, let's say business, you're going to start your own company. That's something that could take all your time, and then it continues to take all your time as long as you're the manager of that business, right? An Airbnb business, let's take an example of that. If you were to get properties that you don't own, list them on Airbnb, and then 100% automate it, get it over in somebody else's hands. So somebody else is managing the property, messaging the guest, and cleaning the properties. So it's hands off, which is what we help clients do. It truly becomes passive. So now you have a vehicle that has the potential to keep growing in income. It takes less and less of your time to manage. And so does it involve time? Yes, it does. As I said, if you want to be an owner, if I want to buy an apartment building, the minute I buy the apartment building, it creates cash flow. I don't have to do anything. I just buy it, right? So that's an example where if you have a lot of money, of course, you can go faster, just like anything in life, right? And just politics. If you got money, it goes a long ways. If you don't have money, then you got to either control assets or create them from scratch. But the time involvement can still be very short. I mean, I know countless friends who have made millions and millions of dollars with things that they created from scratch just in a year or 2 years, a very short time frame.
Yeah.
What I talk about in the book is you have to start investing your time, not spending it, but investing it into vehicles that have the potential to go exponential. So does it require more? Everybody's got to pay a price somehow or another. But if you're willing to pay the price for a short amount of time, you can get truly, truly wealthy. And as a mentor of mine once said, he said, Brian, would you be willing to work 1 or 2 or 3 years for free for the potential to make millions or tens of millions?
Yeah.
And most people say, yeah, I'd be willing to do that, but they're not, because 90 days in, they quit.
Yeah.
So exponential always looks like nothing's happening until suddenly it looks like you're an overnight success.
Yeah.
Whereas a side hustle isn't like that. A side hustle, you hustle today, you get paid today. You hustle tomorrow, you get paid tomorrow. And then you're just in this constant hustle. Yeah. So that's why I want people to get away from thinking about making money, get into the idea of making cash flow, earning cash flow.
That's fantastic. And I think, it goes a step further. I think, if you're young, or if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, what skill am I going to learn? What am I going to focus on? That's one of the reasons I picked real estate. I'm like, what skill can I learn that has this ability to leverage to expand exponentially? And I think all the things that you mentioned, have the capability of doing that.
Of course. Yeah. And I talk about this. There are literally hundreds of ways to do this. There's so many ways that I've never even tried. And let me just give you a couple examples, because people always want to know. So, for example, private labeling. So private labeling is where, for example, I have a whole line of products, page products that actually say Passivepreneur. And I have swag, I have sweatshirts, I have all this stuff. Now, how long did it take me to create this? I didn't design them. I don't ship them. I don't manufacture them. I don't collect the money for them. I do nothing. Okay. It's all done through a virtual storefront. It took me less than a day to set this up. And now I have an income source for life for anybody who wants to buy these swag items. I'm not trying to actually sell them now. I'm saying, if you go to my website and you buy one,
you can sell.
I make money. Yeah. So let me show you this lovely drink mixer thing. So it's an example of a passive income vehicle. Took me almost no time, yet could pay me forever, and it doesn't take any time to manage whatsoever. So that's called private labeling. Okay, a lot of companies do this. Amazon does this. When you buy on Amazon, they don't actually manufacture; they just warehouse things, right? So they stamp their name on things. So that's called private labeling. So that's an example of controlling, right? Of controlling product that I don't own. Affiliate marketing. Again, affiliate marketing just means I could sell your service, your product, whatever, and I make a commission every time that happens. That doesn't require me smart, come up with some new idea or anything like that. In fact, somebody once said, well, how do I sell something through affiliate marketing if I don't have an email list? And I said, well, how long would it take you 100 people on an email list? If you only had 100 people on an email list and 2% of them bought a $2,000 product, a course, that would be $4,000. And a lot of people would pay you half of that. So you can make $2,000 in a month on a 100-person email list. It's done all the time. So so you can start somewhere, right? You can start 0 and get 100 people on your email list. I wasn't born with an email list. So ebooks.
Did they even have email when you were born, Brian?
They did not have email, no.
They
had the Pony Express.
That's right.
So I've got a book about Airbnb. I don't know, tens of millions of people have ads. Okay, so this is an audiobook version, it's a digital version, it's a physical version. So every day these books sell on Instagram and Facebook and whatever. I make a little bit of money each time one sells. And that I created this book years ago. I've updated it every year. I update it, but it's basically the same core concepts. Again, it's a passive income vehicle. There's software and calculators. Let me give you a really cool example. When I was trying to figure out how to calculate how much I'd make on short-term rentals, it was too complicated to figure out what the net cash flow is going to be, because there's like your day rate, your weekend rate, your occupancy level, your utilities, your rent, all the things you got to pay on the property. I couldn't figure out like how to calculate it, and there was no way to do it online. So I just hired some people on one of those sites like Upwork, some guys in India. I paid them $2,000 to create this beautiful interactive software, and it took them a couple months. They created it. I think I spent about $2,000 to do it. That one product has done almost $1 million in sales since then, and I haven't touched it in 4 years.
Do you want access to the exact formula that I use to achieve financial independence? My coaching clients pay $30,000 a year for one-on-one access to the same information that I've put into my new course. And now you can get the same information and the resources for less than $1,500 when I release my course next month. But I'm giving you a limited time offer for anyone that subscribes to my course before it launches. You'll get $1,000 off the course, and you'll get immediate access to our new deal analyzer spreadsheet, which includes your path to financial independence, which will tell you when you will be financially free. The spreadsheet alone is $199, but you'll also get access to our bonus asset protection course as well. Click on the link below and use the code PRELAUNCH. That's one word, PRELAUNCH, all caps, to save $1,000 today. Amazing.
So, I mean, I didn't know how to create that. I don't know how to create software, but I had it done. you can hire, PhDs across
Yeah.
the other side of the world for $10 an hour. So
which
again,
is
the
something
ideas are
we've never been
limitless.
able. It's amazing what we can do now with all
Amazing.
those things.
So
It's
there's
just
no excuse
absolutely
for you
amazing.
don't know how, because there's always somebody
Yeah.
that knows how. So it goes on and on and on and on. There's so many ways to do this. But the key here, I'm always looking for something that I can create once and pays me over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That's the only way I'll do something.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in exchanging my time for
Yeah.
money.
There's something you said that could be kind of controversial, and I kind of gravitated
Sure.
towards it because I've had some discussions in the space. We have a chapter in a children's book called No Problem Parenting, and the chapter I wrote was shocker. It was on finances. So if you check out nextlevelincome.com/kids, I got my 5 tips on how to raise money pros. And the fifth one, the fifth one is how to teach your kids the cost and the true value of college, and talks about ROI and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
One of the conversations I've gotten in with experts on this topic is, hey, we should teach children, children, look, if you're 17 trying to figure out college, you're still a child by all accounts, or young adults, hey, figure out a way to get money so you can go to college for what you love to do. And I actually had a particular conversation with a woman who wanted to be on the podcast. I said, I don't agree with that. And I gave her the numbers, and she never got back to me to dispute my information, and she never requested to be back on the podcast. But you said, forget the saying of do what you love and the money will follow. And I believe what you said, Brian, was your income doesn't have to necessarily be your source of happiness or fulfillment. Can you expand on that? Because I think a lot of people say, hey, I'm going to do what I love, do what you love, and you never have to work a day in your life. Why is that wrong? Why is that wrong?
I think it's 100% wrong, because what you want to do, if your goal is to make income, you should have that income coming from the best possible that you can possibly find, right? You want to have your income coming from something that has the potential to make the most money, the easiest, the fastest, with the least amount of time involved. And that might be something you don't care about at all. Now, so a lot of people, they set out, they're like, for example, somebody who loves golf, they love golf, and they're like, I'm going to make a living at golf. I'm passionate about golf. That's how I'm going to make a fortune. But they never have the talent to be able to go pro. They never have the talent to be able to go to that level. And so they try to go to that level, and maybe they just hate their lives and they end up hating golf versus just playing golf because they enjoy it. A lot of people get wealthy and they have all the time in the world to go play golf, right? So the idea is that you don't make that your passion pay. You can do your passion because you've already become wealthy, time wealthy over here. So a lot of people are waiting to the end of their life to go do the things that they want to do, because they're waiting for some arbitrary number. I got to have $2 million in the bank. I got to have this much money coming in. When they don't realize they could be 30 days or 90 days or 6 months away from a cash flow goal that they could create, where they could walk away from their job forever. I mean, it happens all the time. I have students all the time that are, even some of my students who are making 6 figures plus, and in the 6 months they walk away from that job and they have all the time in the world because now they're making it passive. So what I would say to people is, know what your passions are, but don't mix up your passions with your source of income. Your source of income can be something you're not even interested in. I mean, you could be making money from private lien investing into real estate deals or syndications like you do. You might have no interest in car washes or apartment buildings or anything, but it's a great vehicle to make money to support your lifestyle. Right? Do I love short-term rentals more than anything on earth? No, I don't. It's just an amazing vehicle. I'd rather talk about a lot of other things. I like fast cars. I like yachts. I like, world travel. I'd rather talk about those than talk about short-term rentals. But short rentals is one of my number one vehicles to create the passive income, so I can go experience the supercars and go travel the world and do all the things I want to do. So that's what I tell people. Don't get those mixed up. I don't know who came up with that idea. I think they came up with that idea, honestly, Chris, because there are a lot of people, any passion, and there are people who are really good at it. If you love singing, there's Lady Gaga, but it doesn't mean you're going to be Lady Gaga. It doesn't mean you can be a superstar. There's many people who make a fortune acting, but there's such a minute portion of the population.
Statistically,
the idea that you're going to become
not,
wealthy acting, probably not. So that's kind of my thing, is don't mix the two. just create a life where you have all the time and money in the world to go do the things you want to do. That's what I have to say.
I love that. And I read a book. Oh man, it's probably been 20 years now. It's called Your Money or Your Life. And it's been edited.
Nice.
It actually looks a little nicer when I bought it. But yeah, it was, and I think it was a couple, like a Wall Street couple, but they basically said the same thing. They're like, hey, find something, but figure out how to get to that passive income as quickly as possible. And I was like, that's a great idea. And it was the first time I heard of that. It was almost bizarre at the time, right? Because it wasn't really what you heard.
Yeah, because what I taught retirement, right. The end of your life instead of cash flow. Cash flow could change it tomorrow.
That's right. And the interesting thing is, I think, and you've seen it multiple times with your students, when you don't have to work for money, you get to do what you want, when you want to do it, with who you want to do it with. You end up being more passionate. And I found that most people end up making more money after that point, which is incredible.
You're in that zone. Yeah, you're in that zone. And I mean, creating wealth and getting truly wealthy it shouldn't be the focus of people first. It should be getting financially free. Financially free means you have the option to have no other source of for you other than your passive income. So you could say, I don't want to work that job anymore. People love their job. Like my sister is a teacher. She always wants to teach. I have people that I know that are doctors. They couldn't see themselves not being a doctor. But for most people, the surveys show that most Americans hate their jobs. And if they won the lottery tomorrow, they wouldn't go into their work. So those are the people I want to talk to. Those are the people I want to help. And honestly, everybody's got a number. It could be $5,000 a month. It could be $2,000 a month. It could be $20,000 a month. Whatever that number is, it's very easy to create that in a short amount of time if you use the right vehicles. It doesn't take that long. So instead of doing 30, 40-year plan, you could do the 3 to 4 year plan.
Yeah. It's amazing. I want to talk more about travel here, but if people want to get a copy of your book, I think you got a special link that we're going to put down here in the show notes. And do you want to share that with the group here, Brian?
What I would recommend, you can get the book on Amazon, but don't go to Amazon, because if you go to my site, I'm going to give you 4 different bonuses that are only available there. So what I'll do is I'll give you an instant audiobook download, a PDF ebook download of the book. You're going to get access to my Facebook group, Passivepreneur Facebook group, and then also a workshop that basically tells people, here's from 0 to 1. Here's how you get your first passive income vehicle set up. So it's about $300, $400 in bonuses for getting one $26 book. It's the same price as it is on Amazon. Go to watchfreetraining.com, and you'll just see me training more in depth on the book. And again, you just have to buy one $26 book, all that stuff. So that's where I would send them to, is watchfreetraining.com.
Beautiful. Yeah, check it out. We got the link right down here in the show notes if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening, you can check it out in the show notes there. But Brian, you mentioned that you'd rather talk about travel, fast cars. Where's your favorite place that you've been here in the last year?
Yeah. So Vietnam, I've of the world, dozens of countries. If you've ever watched the Anthony Bourdain shows, Anthony Bourdain was one of my heroes. His favorite country was Vietnam. So I there's many reasons I love it, but I've been there many times. It's still one of my favorite places. But the place that I really loved also, there's a picture of my shoulder here of Egypt. There's me with the pyramids. I'm going back in a couple of months to Egypt, and we're going to do a Nile cruise from Cairo all the way down to Aswan, and I just love Egypt. I can't wait to go back. So that's where I'm going next.
That's awesome, man. Well, we wish you safe travels. Congratulations on your growing family. Congratulations on your new book. And again, if you want to get a copy, and not just a copy, but all the bonuses that Brian is generously given to our listeners today, check out www.watchfreetraining.com. That's watchfreetraining.com. You can get it in the show notes. Brian, you've been an inspiration for me. Your training's helped us launch our AirBNB business. Thank you so much for sharing your new book and all this information with our audience today.
Thank you, Chris. It was great to be here, and look forward to talking to you again.
Likewise. Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.